I'm going to start with Mayor Hancock on this one. And we talk about, all of the growth of the folks coming to Colorado. And I'm interested in knowing how has that rapid growth affected your city? And then we'll go to the other cities.
Well, it's obviously impacted us. On the good side, obviously, we're seeing, our revenues do well. Financially, the city's doing really strong. It's attracted over 100,000 jobs to the city. Over 8,000 companies have moved to the city of Denver in the last 8 years, and it's created a whole different kind of attraction to Denver and the metro region of Denver for businesses, tourism, and for investment. We are seeing foreign direct investment increase in Denver over 25% in the last 7 years. And of course, our connectivity around the world has increased. We've seen 13 new direct flights be established in Denver as a result of the population growth and the attraction that has come. It has given, all of our job attraction and commerce attraction organizations, including the mayor's office and the Division of Economic Development, new tools in which to market Denver and the Denver metro region around the world. And we talk about the great talent pipeline that's here in Denver. It helps us to attract small business and entrepreneur investors who are coming, and as well as venture capitalists are investing. So we've seen those metrics go up. On the challenging side, of course, it's the congestion. It's the pressure on our housing market that I've alluded to already. It's the concerns around quality of life and how that's impacting those of us who have been long-time Denverites, or how is my life changing? Obviously, you used to be able to get anywhere in Denver in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, and now it's 45 minutes to an hour to move about the city. Those are direct impacts on all of us. And of course, cost of living. Nothing is more important to me than when my children finish school that they want to come back home to live in Denver. I know that's important to you as well. Not my basement. And they understand that too, by the way, not the basement. But because at some point they're going to get married. We just became grandparents over the holidays, so that's pretty cool, right?
Congratulations. That's awesome.
And it's important. We want the little lady to stay around us because we love her. And so it's a source of pride. But when our children say, "I cannot afford to live in the city," that breaks my heart, because I've grown up in the city, I was reared in the city, had access to everything in the city, and now our children can't do that, and that's a real problem. So the affordability of Denver is a big concern, along with the congestion that we are seeing.
Okay, and we're going to jump to Grand Junction, and so Mayor Taggart, how's the growth impacted you? You guys have such a beautiful community there.
Well, we'll take the growth that you don't want on the front range. That's the best way I can summarize it. No, our growth has been very steady over these last 4 or 5 years, and we're pleased at that. It's averaged in the 3 to 4% per year, and that's manageable. We still have affordable housing. I think our median home price is $270,000, which is significantly different than over here. Do we have some strains? And we're now facing a situation with a bit of shortage of workforce, but we're fortunate with a growing university, and I mean a really growing university, that we're putting out some great graduates, not only in that university, but in its community college. And Mr. Tim Foster should be recognized for everything he's done for Colorado Mesa University. And so we're having some strains on services and on infrastructure, but growth is something we want to continue to see. So if you're a bit frustrated and want that beautiful lifestyle in the out of doors, Western Colorado is not a bad place to be. Trust me.
That's a good selling point. I'm going to go here. What about down in Colorado Springs?
We need to keep things in perspective. If we had a couple of mayors up here from Rust Belt communities, they'd be pretty amazed that we're, arguing about growth is a good thing or a bad thing. Growth is going to happen. We're not going to want to look in our kids and grandkids' eyes and say, you can't live in Colorado Springs. And when I tell a lot of the no-growthers in Colorado Springs, a lot of people my age grew up there, like Chuck Berry. I don't know if you know it, Chuck Berry and I went to the same grade school and high school.
I did not know
I've
that.
got Chuck Berry stories, okay?
And we want to hear them.
Okay. The alternatives are not healthy or viable. As I say, we're not going to tell our kids and grandkids they can't live in Colorado Springs. And what people have to understand, in Colorado Springs alone, we have to create 5,000 jobs a year to take care of our high school and college graduates that want to live there. That's growth that we've got to deal with. It's got to be smart. We've got limitations. Water is a huge limitation in Colorado that scares me to death that we've got so many water districts out there in rural El Paso County trying to convince people building houses they've got a 300-year water supply, and I don't believe it for a second. Colorado Springs has got the water for the next 7,500 years, and we ought to accept that fact. We ought to be planning accordingly. It's just making sure that we've got the infrastructure investment to keep up with the growth. We also, the diversity of the economy is hugely important. That's why we've got all those Rust Belt cities, folks. They were one industry, and when the technology changes that industry and they move on, technology renders industries obsolete very quickly. If you don't have that diversified economy when they're gone, then you're on a real slide. And so we all want to make sure we've got the kind of economy that we don't have that sort of dependency, and that means growth. It's our job to make sure it's rational as can be. I think there's some huge limiting factors. I will point out, to kind of renew the rivalry here, that by 2050, Colorado Springs will be the largest city in the state of Colorado. That's how I'll end it up.
Very good. So I got to tell you, my son, when he was going to college, he was looking at going up to Fort Collins, and so we had a chance to get up there and spend some time. Most of our time was just kind of in and out of the city. Really, really enjoyed ourselves. So how is growth impacting you guys?
Well, as I mentioned, Fort Collins in my lifetime has grown 8.5 times, and so it's been steady year over the year growth. And with that, I think Fort Collins, we've talked about we're a plan and do city. We plan and do. Some cities plan but don't do, and vice versa. And the thing is that's essential, and that includes all the infrastructural needs and growth paying its own way through capital improvement fees and that sort of thing, such that Fort Collins, if we talk about transportation, the complaints are usually at the busiest time, it might take an extra light to get through. So it's very relative as to what the issues are. As I think about Fort Collins and growth, for me, it's less about a number and it's more about our values. And Fort Collins has also been able to maintain the kind of values that people love about Fort Collins, being friendly, engaged, passionate, and a wonderful place to live, work, play. A lot of that is, we're a university city, and we've mentioned that, and really university cities all along, all the mayors here. And that's a true asset. We're an evergreen community with students always coming, and that's a dynamic that makes a great city. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan once said, if you want a great city, build a university and wait 200 years. And so there's a lot about, and that's a key part. That's a key part of our economic development strategy is really innovate. We're featured in the Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. as a place of invention, and that's very much part of our ethos in terms of our business community, with our high-tech companies being Intel and Broadcom and HP and Woodward, and also great brewery industry with Anheuser-Busch, but also New Belgium and Odell's. And so there's this culture of innovation and creativity and collaboration. And getting to more of the growth, it's really maintaining those kinds of values within the community that people love. And then, being very active. We talk about transportation. It isn't just getting in the car. It's having multimodal. If you really talk about livability, it's really engaging with, just enjoying your life where you are. And how do you create that within a dynamic community? And that's where it's just not just the infrastructure and stuff. There's also a heart and soul of our communities, and really bringing that out, make it in a special place for all in our community. And so I think that's as much an important part of the conversation about how do we meet the needs of the future, and talking about business attraction and retention, and really it's that is what people love. Our trails, our natural areas, the things that make Fort Collins and Colorado special are those things that we can preserve, accentuate, and just and provide for our communities.
Okay, so in another life, you were really like a PR person for Fort Collins, weren't you? I got it. No, but it's a beautiful, beautiful community. Lone Tree. So we've been to the Art Center, which is beautiful. We've been to the Schwab campus, which is huge. How has growth impacted Lone Tree?
Well, first of all, I have to complain to Mayor Wade that he's made Fort Collins a little too attractive for my fifth-year senior son who's studying engineering up there. So come on, Mayor, work with me a little. Work with me a little. So he's out. He's out in May. We're in agreement. No, so Lone Tree actually is only 25 years old. We've grown from a community of 3,000 people when we first started in 1995. Now we're at just 15,000 people. We actually have more employees in Lone Tree than we have residents in Lone Tree, which is very interesting. But we are a city that is planning for growth. We are very proactive in that. There are 2,000 acres of greenfield that on the east side of I-25, served by 2 light rail stations, that we are planning for the future. And we have done a tremendous job, I think, in proactive planning for that. So we have 5 light rail stations. We have got a link-on-demand micro-transit. You can travel for free within the city using an app on your phone that we have developed. We are, I think, light years ahead for most communities our size. In fact, when serving at Dr. Cog with one of the Denver council members came up to me and he said, well, how many people live in Lone Tree? And when I told him, he said, you guys really punch above your weight. And we have to, because look who sits on either side of me. And it's not just on this stage. We are kind of smack dab between Colorado Springs and Denver. And all the folks that are moving back and forth along that corridor are coming through my city. But what I am also struggling with, and I think in the metro area in particular, is this very anti-growth sentiment. There is an initiative that potentially is on the ballot next year that is going to be devastating for the economy of the state. And if it limits growth, that would mean where we are planning and have built infrastructure and light rail stations and roads and water and sewer for 7,000 homes, we will get 50 homes a year. Just think about the investment that's been made by the private sector there, not only what the city's investments have made. I think we have to be very real in this conversation about growth. I think we have to acknowledge that we need to do a better job talking to our businesses and our residents about the great things that have happened in our communities. And Stacy, I very much appreciate you acknowledging them. We've got an art center in Lone Tree because of growth. We've got a brand new library in the city of Lone Tree because of growth. We've got trail access to the East-West Trail in the city of Lone Tree because of growth. We have better schools because of the growth in Lone Tree. We've got better access to healthcare because of the growth in Lone Tree. We have better connections to trails with pretty much every single neighborhood, new and old, because of the growth that has happened in Lone Tree. Now, we have better shopping. And did I mention the Park Meadows Retail Resort? Right. No, but we do have better access, and because of the demographics, because of the location. We have a CU South Denver location in Lone Tree because of growth that has happened. But all people talk about, and I think the news has not been our friend in this conversation, is growth and congestion. We have growth and congestion because of a lack of investment in transportation. We have growth and congestion because we now have Uber and Lyft, and we've got Amazon delivering to your door multiple times a day. That has nothing to do with new people coming in. That has to do with you ordering it clickety-clack online and 5 packages coming to your door.
All right.
So let's be real, people. So anyway,
right.
that's my thoughts on growth.
All right.